Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at Justinian the Great in our continuing study of a history of Christianity. Young Justinian comes to the throne in 527. The very first thing he does is takes as his wife, as who's going to be his empress, Theodora. Now, he had been in love with Theodora at quite an earlier time, had wanted to marry her, but his parents simply would not allow it. The reason was because she was an actress. And that was considered scandalous because remember, among the Romans, and even though we're we're in Constantinople, right next door to Greece, Justinian is still technically a Roman. Among the Romans, actresses are that's the sort of job that a slave does, and so she was considered maybe a step above a woman of ill repute. But he has fallen in love with her, and once his father has died and he's become emperor, he chooses her as his wife and empress, and she is going to rise to the occasion. Now, it's shortly after this that we have what are known as the Niki riots. The word Niki, in fact, there's a shoe by that name, isn't there? But it means victory. The victory riots, and what happened? It all began with the chariot races. That was what they called the circus, and there was a circus. A big chariot racing stadium there in Constantinople. And people were always so excited about their team winning, the blues or the greens, and they really took their chariot races seriously. But now a riot developed and threatened to overthrow the actual government. And Justinian and his soldiers had already decided there's nothing to do except to leave the city, to get on the ships, and to escape. And they were packing their bags, they're getting ready to go, when Theodora says, "I'm not leaving. Empresses do not run away. I can die here, but I will not abandon my position." And Justinian said, "Well, I guess I can't leave either." And he turned to his generals. What do we do about this? And his youngest general, Belisarius, a up and coming military man, comes up with a plan that involves announcing that the emperor is going to the stadium, and the people who are eager to riot, to overthrow the government, and to kill the emperor all run to the stadium to do that. And it's a trap. Belisarius has laid a trap and captures the ringleaders, had them put to death. The riot is over, and Justinian is secure on his throne. Now Belisarius is sent out, that same general, to take the empire and bring it back together. Remember, the empire had split. The empire in the west had been overrun by various tribal peoples, the Vandals and the Goths and others. And over the next number of years, Belisarius takes military forces, and he retakes Italy and North Africa and parts of Spain, so that for a brief time the empire is actually reunited under Justinian. Meanwhile, Justinian begins a new project. It will be known as the Hagia Sophia. It will be the greatest structure ever built to that time. A, a church, no, a basilica, to make this the center of Christianity in the world. The inside of the Hagia Sophia is incredible. Remember, this is an earthquake zone, and it has this huge dome over 100 feet high. And well, how could something like that continue to stand? It's been standing for almost 1,500 years. How can it continue to stand in a place that has regular earthquakes? And the secret is that the dome is built upon a series of smaller domes, which redistribute any kind of earthquake and any kind of damage that's being done throughout the entire structure. And so the Hagia Sophia, the term means the holy wisdom, is going to be one of the wonders of the world. It is said that when he completed the work, that he comes in and he looks up at it and he says, I have outdone you, O Solomon. The Hagia Sophia then finished in 537. Like I said, the dome sits on the smaller domes. You can actually see here from the outside how this takes place. You can see all the smaller domes around the high central dome. There were columns there that were brought up from Ephesus. You will recall that Ephesus had been home of the Temple of Artemis, this giant pagan temple, the glory of all Asia, as it had been described actually in the book of Acts, at the words of one of the silversmiths. And yet that had now fallen into disrepair, and so Justinian sent for the columns and had them brought up, and they still stand as part of the Hagia Sophia today. Next, we see Justinian going to war with Persia. The empire had been weakened in wars with Persia, and a plague hit during his reign, where the plague ravaged Europe. 1 out of every 4 people in Europe died from the plague. You also have during this period the Lombards coming into Italy, setting up shop in Italy. They will actually be ruling for quite a time. These migrations take place in 568. There are pagans, there are Arian Christians. It looks like the church is in disarray. And then to add to that disarray will be what takes place next. You have a few years after Justinian has come and gone, one Phocas. He is a Roman centurion who murders the emperor in the year 602, and the Persian Shah, in this period of utter upheaval, takes the opportunity to invade and marches all the way to Constantinople, surrounds the city. On one side is the water, on the other side is the land portion. Remember that Constantinople is on a peninsula. And so he has laid siege, and it looks like Constantinople will finally fall. In the midst of that crisis comes a new hero, Heraclius. If that sounds like Hercules, that's actually who he's named for. And Heraclius, he leaves Constantinople in the hands of the patriarch. He says to the bishop there at Constantinople, "You're in charge. Hold things together, and I will be back." And then he takes his army across the Bosphorus, across the Black Sea, lands on the northern side of Anatolia, and invades Persia. What do you do when you're under attack? You attack back, but at the heartland of the Persian Empire. And he manages, by this device, to retake all the lands. Supposedly the true cross had been captured. He recaptures that, all sorts of Christian relics that had been taken, and saves the day. Yes, the empire had been saved, but at what cost? You see, between Constantinople, the Byzantines, and Persians, they had fought themselves to a bloody pulp. And in that vacuum, a new power would arise, the power of Islam. But we'll look at that in a future lecture.